The theory behind social distancing is that it will protect people from other folk who sneeze or cough. The lunatics who are currently running the asylum in which we all live say that they will have to maintain social distancing forever. Forever. That's what they've been saying. But there isn't any real science to it. In some countries, people have to keep 3 feet apart. In others, they must keep 4.5 feet apart. In Britain, adults and children are told that they must keep 6 feet apart. The latest rule in Britain is that 2 people can meet 1 person, but that 1 person can't meet 2 people. Now, I've thought about that a lot, and I don't think I'm completely stupid just yet, but I can't get my head around it. This is the official government advice. 2 people can meet 1 person, but 1 person cannot meet 2 people. That's the law. And it is quite possibly the most completely stupid law I've ever heard of being given anywhere. But if you break this incredibly stupid and impossible law, you can be fined. I've no idea how much you can be fined. I'm still too busy trying to work out how the law can possibly work to care what the fine might be. There's no uniformity to the rules around the world because they're just made up by people who think they're a good idea. Our lives are being regulated and destroyed by rules which somebody somewhere thought were a good idea. Forcing us to stay in our homes is also something that was just made up house arrests. And it's pretty clear that the authorities, the people who dreamt up the rules and who insist that we follow them, don't bother to take much notice of them themselves. I've lost count of the number of senior public figures who've been caught flouting the rules. They always have a good excuse, of course. But then we all would have a good excuse for flouting the rules. And am I the only one to have noticed that the police don't seem to think the social distancing rules apply to them when they're out hunting for people, for criminals who are sunbathing or sitting on park benches, heaven forbid? And when the police attend the few demonstrations which have developed, demonstrations against the lockdown, for example, they completely ignore the social distancing rules themselves. The police stand very close to one another and then get very hands-on with demonstrators. So the police are certainly breaking the social distancing laws when they arrest people. So why should the police not arrest themselves? Or maybe the demonstrators could arrest the police for breaking the social distancing laws. They could all arrest one another. It's crazy. And apart from the massive social and economic implications, there's one big problem with the social distancing rules. A sneeze doesn't stop at 3 feet or 4.5 feet or 6 feet, and nor does a cough. As I've mentioned before, a cough can spread droplets for 18 feet and a sneeze can travel 24 feet. So these social distancing rules are arbitrary and effectively pretty pointless. If we're going to have effective social distancing, then we would all have to keep at least 24 feet apart and preferably 30 feet apart to be really safe. But that would bring the world to a complete standstill, everyone would go bankrupt, no one would ever be able to buy any food, and we'd all starve to death. Cars would have to be really quite large if everyone had to be 30 feet apart. So they made up these lower figures because they're a bit more practical. However, even these lower figures are destroying lives and will destroy businesses and everything which makes our world fun and good. Social distancing forces people to shout to one another and prevents grannies hugging their grandkids. Social distancing makes people fearful. It breeds distrust, suspicion and even hatred. Passers-by step to one side and walk on the road if they see someone coming towards them. Social distancing will prevent meetings and demonstrations. It's difficult to think of a business which won't be adversely affected by social distancing. Restaurants are told that they have to throw out 3/4 of their tables and then try to make a profit. How many waiters can serve food from 6 feet away? A bowl of tomato soup will cost 200 quid. Extra roll, sir? That'll be another £50. Restaurants won't be able to make a living. Airlines have been told that they have to throw out 1/3 of their seats. And airline bosses have pointed out that if they do that, they'll never be able to fly again. Hairdressers will have to use scissors that are 2 yards long. Sports arenas can only seat people if they have 6 feet of space around them. Cinemas and theatres will have to close off most of their seating, and so they'll either have to close or charge a fortune for a seat. Hotels are doomed by social distancing. Can you imagine trying to get back to your room after breakfast? I'm afraid there's a 1-hour queue for the lift, sir. We're only allowed to put 2 people in one lift at a time, and you must stand facing the wall inside the lift. I sense that the people who made up the social distancing rules are beginning to weaken. I sense they're aware that what they've done is indefensible and unsupportable. The sensible solution is for us to keep pushing our so-called leaders, the lunatics, into forgetting about social distancing laws. When they know that we don't believe their lies, and that we do know what's going on and how they're trying to take over our lives with their power-grabbing emergency legislation, then they'll back off. They want to stay in power, and if we shout long enough, loud enough and hard enough, then they'll listen. We need to encourage old-fashioned good manners, to encourage everyone to cover their mouths and noses if they sneeze or cough. That'll protect us against all the diseases which can be transmitted this way. If we do these simple things, we can go back to living ordinary lives. We can eat out, watch live sports, and talk to people we meet without having to shout to them across the street. If we must have laws to control our behaviour, then let's introduce a law which says that if you don't cover your mouth and nose when you sneeze or cough, then you will be punished. And if we must have a punishment for breaking the law, bring back the stocks that were popular in England a few hundred years ago. People who don't cover their mouths and noses will be sentenced to 24 hours in the stocks, where the rest of us can stand and throw rotten fruit and vegetables at them. Oh, and let's tell the local authorities to install more public loos with decent hand-washing facilities. One of the most utterly insane things done during the last few weeks has been to close public loos in the UK. The people who decided to do that should be put in the stocks too, because they're utterly barking. That's all from the old man in the chair. Thanks for watching and listening. And thank you for all your support and encouragement. This video has not been monetized, as they say, and I've not authorized any adverts or any sponsorship, and if you see any, it's nothing to do with me. You can find more truths about the coronavirus and all sorts of other topics on my website, www.vernoncoleman.com, which also has no advertising and also has no sponsorship. Thank you very much for watching.